Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is a video I'm excited about. I spent 1 hour talking to Kelsey Hightower. For those of you that don't know, Kelsey Hightower is, right now I think his title is staff engineer at Google. It was staff developer advocate, but he's a tech person at Google that's achieved the degree of fame because of his way of speaking, his power to demo and illustrate very technical things in a clear and concise way, in an entertaining way. I remember watching him as a practitioner and thinking, wow, that would be cool to do something like that someday. And at the time, the most I had presented to was my colleagues at work on specific technical topics. And now at this point, I'm in a developer advocate role at a company called HashiCorp. And I just thought it would be useful to understand someone who's been in the game a long time, how they go about their role and what they work to accomplish on a daily basis, honing your craft, how do you execute upon empathy, and things like that. So I reached out, and Kelsey, being the awesome person that he is, agreed to a meeting with me, and I figured I'd compile my notes and give to you all, hopefully, something that's useful. So this will be broken down into 3 core questions. The first thing I wanted to know was, how do you manage your craft as an engineer every day? Tech is moving so quickly. How do you work day to day to make sure that you're staying on top of it? The second question I asked was, how do you execute on empathy every day? I'm in a role, Kelsey's in a role where we have to interact with the users of our software, but also the customers, these big organizations that use our software, and help them solve real problems. So my question to Kelsey was, how do you actually make sure, hold yourself accountable to showing empathy in every interaction on a day-to-day basis? So that's question number 2. Question number 3 was a fun one, which is, how do you manage social media? I am someone who's trying to get better at social media. Definitely still not the greatest, but I'm working on it. And I wanted to know from a veteran, someone who's been in the field, a really long time, 20 plus years, I wanted to understand how they think about social media. How do they incorporate it into their daily life? So I'll go ahead and share that with you as the third question. And then if you stay to the end, I'll share an Easter egg with you, a common theme that he kept emphasizing throughout the whole of the conversation. So question number 1, how do you manage your craft as an engineer? How do you, Kelsey, keep track and stay up to date with all of the things that are happening? There was a couple main points here, a couple principles, and then there was also some very deliberate action. The principles were, no pun intended, to break things down into their first principles, the fundamental parts of something. And then that kind of gives you this ability to ask relevant questions. Now let's talk about what that actually means. He was saying that, for example, if he was looking at a new tool, right? A new piece of tech, whatever it is, let's say there's some revolutionary way to package applications. What Kelsey's approach would be, okay, what's the value proposition? What's the problem that this tool is saying it solves? All right. Then he would go back and say, how did we solve this in the past? And I thought this was really powerful because I think this is a step that we miss a lot of the time. There's a ton of different ways to do things in tech, and there's been many approaches to solve similar problems throughout the years. Very similar problems. And we always move to the new thing because it's a little better, but we don't always understand why it's better. So this note was really powerful. And in this example, let's say we have this revolutionary way to package applications. He may go and mess around with like RPM packages or whatever it is, the package manager of choice, to see how it's been solving this problem for years. And go through the process, writing code of actually building out his own package, signing it, putting it in the repository, etc., exposing it, and seeing what challenges were along the way and how these old package managers would solve it. Then he'll look at the new tool again and say, how are they solving this problem? What's the main differentiator? This is extremely powerful because when we take into account the maturity of past tools and then the innovation that is happening with the current tools, it gives us the ability to bridge the gap and walk someone through why they would go about changing. This plays a little bit into the empathy discussion we're going to jump into later. I thought that was an amazing note from the conversation that I definitely want to make sure to share with all of you who are interested in making sure they're honing their craft. Question number 2, how do you make sure that you're showing empathy with your customers, with your users on a day-to-day basis? Empathy is something Kelsey talks about a lot, understanding people's problems. I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into that. What does that actually mean? He said a couple things that I thought were interesting. The first thing that he said was understand their opinions, why they think the world works the way it works, and understand the facts related to that organization, why certain processes are the way they are. That also feeds into these opinions, because in large organizations, especially organizations that have existed 100 years plus, these aren't like startups. There are processes in place that exist for what was a great reason, maybe a year ago, let alone 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, right? So you have to understand a little bit about how we got here, why we feel these processes are so important. Essentially, be quiet. Just listen. I love this point. This is something I work really hard to do on a daily basis, is when a customer's talking, just be quiet and listen and let them talk. Let them speak about why things are working the way that they are and why they feel like they should approach things a certain way. Once you understand their opinions and you understand the facts related to the organization or the customer, the trade-offs that they're willing to accommodate, etc., now we can provide guidance. But that pause in the beginning is crucial. If we're talking, we can't help. Right? We don't even know how to help. We don't know what to provide as guidance and help that's really relevant to that person, that organization. We'll just end up spouting generalized solutions that don't really matter to someone who's in the weeds actually working on things day to day. You have to understand people enough before you can advocate for their needs. That enough, what is enough? That's a good question, and it depends on the circumstances. But if the job isn't getting done, if there's a gap in understanding and there's friction, the odds are you haven't tried to understand enough what's happening. I thought that was really good, and I hope that that's helpful for all of you. Item number 3, which was kind of a practical thing, pretty simple. How do you, Kelsey, manage your social media on a day-to-day basis? Life is busy. There's a ton of stuff going on. We have all the work stuff to maintain. We have all the tech stuff to keep up to date on. And we have to do social media now on a day-to-day basis. How do you do that? And I thought that his tips were very relevant. The main one was he uses social media as kind of a stream of consciousness. As he's working on things, he's posting. And he's committed to something that I've just recently really committed myself to, which is learning out loud, experimenting out loud. I think that that's really powerful because it gives people insight on the journey, on how you got there, not just the end result. So I think that was a really good piece, and I hope that helps you as well. The next thing that he mentioned about just social media and content in general that you're creating is bringing your authentic self. Now that's, kind of vague, right? But there are a couple things that I noted that I think makes that a lot more practical, what it means to bring your authentic self. And he illustrated kind of like there's a lot of people who can make content on the facts, and you can get really far making content on the facts. But the thing that people find interesting are your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on top of the facts. And that is what kind of composes your authentic self, who you are. What are your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on top of the facts? So I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a fantastic point on how to bring your authentic self, and hopefully that helps you as well. Now, if you stayed this long, here is the Easter egg that I promised. It was something that he kept mentioning throughout the course of the discussion, which was treat everything, every interaction, every customer engagement, every piece of code that you write, everything, as if you're interviewing. And I kept hearing him say it, and the more that he was saying it, the more I realized he was really talking about a tangible way to reason about bringing your A game all of the time, bringing your best all of the time. I think that it's easy to, when you're in the job, when you've been with this customer a lot of the time and you met with them or you met with this user a lot, to just kind of become a little lax. I think we've all fallen into that trap at times, but it's critical. And I wholeheartedly agree with this, to bring your A game at every single interaction. Treat it as if you're being interviewed and they may hire you, because they very well may at some point. I hope that these 3 tips were helpful. I know that it helped me a lot personally as I'm going through and working to develop my craft and become a better advocate and engineer. I hope that you all have a great day. If you learned anything, please like and subscribe. It's been amazing. Even just, I think I'm only 10 videos in, but the amount that people have reached out to me, not just on YouTube, but on LinkedIn, etc., has been great. I love hearing from you all, and I really appreciate all the interaction. I'll see you all next time.